What former FBI Director Andy McCabe admitted on 60 Minutes last night should alarm all of you.
I didn't know when I'd be out of the job, so I just put my head down and got to work trying to stabilize the people around me and do the things that I felt we needed to do with the Russia investigation, getting cases opened and getting a special counsel appointed. Is there an inappropriate relationship, a connection between this president and our most fearsome enemy, the government of Russia?
Are you saying that the president is in league with the Russians?
I'm saying that the FBI had reason to investigate that. We talked about why the president had insisted on firing the director and whether or not he was thinking about the Russia investigation and did that impact his decision. And in the context of that conversation, the Deputy Attorney General offered to wear a wire into the White House. Now, he was not joking. He was absolutely serious. A discussion of the 25th Amendment was simply Rod raised the issue and discussed it with me in the context of thinking about how many other cabinet officials might support such an effort.
Okay, just to sum up what he just copped to. The newly promoted McCabe, out of political disdain, took it upon himself to become the ultimate resistance hero. He's setting in motion a counter-intel investigation against a sitting president of the United States, push for a special counsel, and openly discuss removing the duly elected president, commander-in-chief, from office. And folks on the other networks are calling this guy a patriot? Now, what do former high-ranking FBI officials think about all this? Let's discuss with a couple of the greats. Kevin Brock was the former FBI Assistant Director for Intel, and Terry Turchie was the former Deputy Assistant Director of Counterterrorism in the Counterterror Division. Kevin, now, you recently penned a piece calling McCabe's reemergence embarrassing. Why?
Yes, that's a huge embarrassment, and I think, and I think Terry will agree that for former FBI agents, and I've heard from a lot of current FBI agents right now, that what Andrew McCabe is doing and what he did last night further misled the American people and actually manipulated the American people, because now suddenly he's a victim. After perpetrating, along with Jim Comey, severe damage to the FBI because of their, now what we know, clear biases, he is going on a book tour to sell books.
Everyone's selling books. All the other former FBI guys are all pushing their books.
Which is just
going to make money.
Amazing to us. So he's trying to rehabilitate himself, but the damage is done, and he continues to do more damage. He has claimed, as you just pointed out, when he became acting director, he went on a binge of opening cases against the President of the United States. On the 60 Minutes interview last night, he was deceptive and misleading.
How so? Give us some,
he
little tags.
He stated that he had clear and articulable facts for opening up an FBI investigation.
What were those facts? I'm still waiting for the facts.
Well, he said, well, the president criticized our investigation. That was number one. Not a reason for opening up a case. He said that the president directed James Comey to let Michael Flynn off the hook. No, he didn't. If you go back and look at James Comey's notes, he didn't say that. Mm-hmm. He said that Rod Rosenstein was pressured to put the Russia investigation in. So, you know, there was all these things that don't rise to the level of opening up legitimately.
Yeah, but he looked really earnest, Terry. He looked really earnest. This guy, Malcolm Nance, was on MSNBC. He's a former counterterror specialist. And this is how he describes Terry McCabe last night.
These phrases, taking down an elected president, a bureaucratic coup, this is Donald Trump's characterization of what the patriots at the FBI and the Department of Justice, who were defending the Constitution of the United States.
Terry, that's all he was doing, defending the Constitution.
Yeah, he sure was. I'll tell you, Laura, first of all, I couldn't agree more with what Kevin just said to you. And I can't even watch this again tonight without my blood boiling. I'll make 3 points. Number one, as Kevin well knows, as all of us who worked in the FBI in those positions know, what he essentially told us last night is after having unverified information for a year in the form of the Christopher Steele dossier, and then going to the White House and being angry because former Director Comey had been fired and not liking the president's demeanor and the way he delivered words, He decided to go back and that the man was a great threat to America. That's about what we got last night, and that's about what the FBI had. It is embarrassing. It is just egregious, and I never thought in my lifetime I'd see this. And it's interesting that he opened that case in about May of 2017. You know, we had just come off by a couple of months, March, April, going back into January of 2017, where guess what had happened? We had the outgoing Obama administration unmasking people in the Trump transition team. Don't tell me that the collusion is now starting to come together, and it's not all pointing to the president and Russia. It's pointing it directly at politics in the top layer of the FBI. And Kevin knows, and I know, and anybody who's been in those spots up there on the 7th floor knows, that the FBI agents who were working in those top positions were not following the rules, the guidelines, or all of the policies we put together for decades to protect this.
Well, guys, so both of you, what kind of FBI acting director convenes or takes part in a meeting about the 25th Amendment and removing the president? Is that part of what an acting FBI director's responsibility is, to pronounce over meetings or to take part in them?
He should have immediately got up and excused himself from that meeting and said, I will not be part of this discussion. First of all, the FBI has no jurisdictional interest or abilities in the 25th Amendment discussion. So he should have immediately recognized he had no role and should not have been in that meeting.
Terry, Bill Barr just sworn in last week as the new Attorney General of the United States, former and now current. How does he proceed here? I mean, it's almost like the entire FBI has to be dismantled and kind of reborn to restore its integrity, because a lot of good people do work there. But it's so tainted now. This whole investigation was a fraud from the outset, and it is patently obvious to anyone who will take off their political, partisan cap and just look at the facts. And I think Andrew McCabe gave it away last night. He gave it away. I thought it was so obvious. They had nothing on Trump.
Exactly, and I think the big problem confronting the new Attorney General is this, and a lot of people may not want to get into this discussion. As we have a political party, the Democratic Party, turning harder and harder left, which in itself is a major national security risk, we also do not know exactly to this day exactly what happened in the FBI, whether there still exists within the FBI these kinds of issues, perhaps people appointed by McCabe before he left. And we need to get to the bottom of all these things that are still out there in the universe and all these loose ends. People need to know who orchestrated all this, because it is absolutely just unbelievable that there is not somebody behind all of this that pulled it together and compromised the FBI. And we're not even getting into the fact we could have had certainly we could have had anything from bribes to greed to ego.
Absolutely.
All of these things are factors here. Kevin and I never saw in the FBI anything like this. And in fact, we always prided ourselves as we left, pass along the FBI we found a little bit better to the next generation. Yeah. This didn't happen this time.
All right, Rosenstein's out. Barr has his new deputy, Jeff Rosen, former partner at Kirkland and Ellis, really good guy. Yeah. Is it time to finally, like just what you said at the beginning of the show, you need repercussions for bad behavior? Will there be?
I have already appealed in articles to the new Attorney General to launch an investigation into the actions of James Comey and Andrew McCabe. These two colluded and fed off each other's biases to do a lot of damage to the FBI.
Both of you, incredible conversation. And I know you guys don't do a lot of TV. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.